Welcome to Sips with the Surreal.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dina.
And we're just three best friends who like to get together and talk about books. We would love for you to follow along with us each week, just like a book club. We will tell you the week before what book we are discussing so you can make sure you've read it. If you check out our Insta, each of us likes to make art, so we will post our art interpretations for each book. But today we have a very special guest. We are privileged to be interviewing the author Penn Cole. She is New York Times. She is New York Times and U.S. Today best-selling author of the Kindred Saga, which is a fantasy romance series that we just absolutely love. Mm-hmm. So we are so excited to have you. Thank you. Welcome to Sips with the Surreal.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. So we're not drinking any alcohol right now since normally we record at night. So we're doing a Luminous latte.
This is me too. Oh,
perfect. We usually like to, spill the tea or sip like the surreal. But yeah, Luminous latte.
Perfect.
Thank you. So what time is it there? It's like 4:00 there?
It is, yes, 4:00.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you fitting us into your schedule.
Yeah, so much fun.
Okay. So everyone's favorite question, sarcasm. Tell us about yourself. We read that you're originally from Texas, but living in France, and Dina is a fellow Texan.
Oh, hello. Howdy.
Hi.
Yes, I am born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and lived there pretty much my whole life. And then I moved to France. I originally moved to France in the early 2010s, the first time around with my husband. Then we moved back to the US, and now we're back here in France. I think, hopefully, knock on wood, to stay long term.
Oh, nice.
But every time I say, no, we're not moving again, the universe is like, ha surprise. So I'm not saying that anymore. But yes, we love living here. My husband is also from the US. He's from Louisiana.
Oh.
So we have no ties to France really, except that we just love it here and love the culture and the way of life. So it's a fun little adventure.
That's awesome.
So how are the Parisians to an expat? Like, are they nice?
Yes and no. I mean, it's the French are very, I like to describe them as like M&Ms, right? Hard candy shell.
Okay.
But like very sweet and warm on the inside. It can be a little hard to break in because they vary. And I really like this about them. They're very loyal to the people they grew up with, and they have a small friend group, and they tend to see their friends like every week, if not a couple of days a week. Whereas I feel like in the US, a lot of times we get caught up in the hustle and we can go months without seeing close friends just because we're so busy with work and other things. And so to the French, like to my US friends, I might see them only twice a year and I still feel like we're good friends. But the French, if they're not seeing you on a regular basis, they don't feel, I think, like you're like in their tight circle.
Wow.
So it's been fun to kind of try and like make our way in, what I mean, by making new friends and spending quality time with them.
Oh,
Do
that's
you
fun.
speak French?
I do badly. On paper, I'm fluent. I don't think I'm fluent at all. I don't think a French person would say that I'm fluent, but taking lots of classes, it's difficult because I work in English, obviously, and write in English, and I'm talking to readers all day in English. So we live in a little bit of an English bubble here. But I'm working on it.
Hey, it's more than I could say.
I know
for
that's.
myself.
I think that's impressive because it's very, very hard to learn another language. So that's super impressive,
especially as an adult.
Yes, our brains aren't very kind to us as we get older.
No, they're not.
So, as an author, who are your personal favorite authors? Who inspires you?
So many people. I feel like every day I find a new author that I'm like, they are doing really cool, interesting things, or, different books blowing up that I'm like, oh, this is so unique or so interesting. I feel so honored to be in the romantasy genre because it's not just great books. I was raised on romantasy. I love romantasy, but the people are so good. You know what I mean? Like I know so many of these authors now as friends. Aww. And I just know what good people they are too. Aww. So that that's such a wonderful thing. The first author that really inspired me to become a romantasy author is someone named Jacqueline Carey. She wrote a trilogy that I think the first book is Cushiel's Dart, and it was published 25 years ago. I mean, it's not recent, but it for me at least was kind of like the mother of romantasy. It was the first one I remember seeing on shelves. I think the first one that really kind of blew up along with like Anne Bishop around the same time. And it sort of laid the foundations of what we now see in a lot of romantasy books. So that's always the one it's kind of my go-to when people ask me what author inspired me, because she's the reason I think that I'm a romantasy author today.
She was your gateway drug.
She was. She was ACOTAR before ACOTAR was ACOTAR.
Love it. Love it. Now, I know you're currently writing, you said, so maybe you're not reading any other books. I was going to say who's on your nightstand right now, but I don't know if you read and write at the same time.
Burn. The only book I'm touching right now is Burn.
That's fine.
I've been reading in the little pockets where I can. I've been reading a lot of contemporary romance because I can't really read fantasy while I'm drafting. So I've been getting into hockey romance a little bit lately because I can kind of like read them in an afternoon or something and get like just a dose of dopamine and really sweet ones. One of my favorites is Stephanie Archer, who for the Vancouver Storm series. I love hers because there's no third act breakup ever. And her men are always just like the nicest guys. There's no like jerks, They're all nice. And so I know I can read her books and just come out feeling like happy and like lovey and swoony, and it's the best dopamine hit.
That's great.
I like that.
Our friend Megan is going to love that. She is the original person who told me about your books, and she loves the hockey romances, so she's going to be giddy when she hears this.
Perfect.
So delving into you a little bit more, how long did it take you to write each book? Did it just flow out of you, like this beautiful story of Diem?
It was very different for each book. So Spark it was like in my brain needing to get out, and it just forced its way onto the paper very quickly. I think I wrote the whole thing in about 6 weeks, maybe a little bit less.
Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't stop writing. I was doing thousands of words a day because I just needed to get it out of my head. And Glow took a little bit longer. I think it was like 2-ish months that it took me to write that one.
Still quick.
Heat took me 8 months to write.
Well, have you seen the heft on that one?
It is a little bit longer, but also I think one thing I've learned, this is my first series. So one thing I've kind of learned as I've progressed is how different each book in the series is, like a beginning book versus a middle book versus an end book. And Heat, I think, took longer, not just because it's so long, but because at that point we really know the characters really well. And I have to really think about, like in Spark and Glow, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what are their motivations? What would they do? You know? And I get to make it up because it's kind of the first time we're seeing them. But in Heat, it's a lot more about staying consistent, right? And like, okay, what authentically would this character do based on the backstory I've laid out for them, based on their values, their priorities. And I really agonized over getting that right and making sure that every decision they make is really true to who they are as a person. And that just required a lot of time and thinking. And that's also part of why Burn has taken a million years because, not only am I agonizing over all of that, but also how do I give them the end that each of them deserves and that, is right for their story. It's been rough.
Is Burn going to be the last one in the series?
It is.
Yeah. I'm not ready.
It's a true end. It's not going to be one of those like, oh, well, I leave things open and it's up for interpretation. It is a clean.
Okay. We appreciate that.
A conclusion.
Yes.
Okay.
Conclusion.
We appreciate that very greatly. So we can wait then. If it's the last one,
Just got to savor it.
We'll wait. We'll wait. I'll just keep rereading Heat until
exactly.
Isn't my favorite. I don't know. I love Glow. So Glow is when I was like, I'm so heavily invested. I'm breathing the series now. And then I was just like, you need to read that. Like everybody I talked to, I was like, have you read this yet? You need to read it. And then here we are.
And
Glow is my favorite also.
oh, really?
yeah, okay. That's good to know.
And once I'm a physical book type person, she loves audio, but she'll also buy the book and do both at the same time. But when I opened Spark, I immediately fell in love with the trees, the artwork. It is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous book. It needs to be displayed. How did you come up with the artwork? Do you have someone who does the art?
Well, it's been quite a journey on that one as well. So I originally hired a designer to do the indie versions because I originally self-published the books. And when I hired that designer, I had, this was one of the ideas that I had, the kind of like cameo silhouette with like an image inset into it. And number one, I wanted to emphasize that this is a story about a woman. It's telling a woman's story, and this is really a story written by women, for women, about women. And of course, we love our male characters and our male readers and everything, but that's kind of my focus in this. And so I wanted to make that very clear. I also loved the idea of like the covers. It starts with Spark is on a white background, and there's like a little bit of smoke kind of. And then Glow obviously
Her
gets a little
powers
bit
are
more
unleashing.
fiery, more yellow, and Heat is like a dark sort of orangey. It gets darker and more fiery with each book. And I don't think no one has seen the final burn cover yet, but it's very dark. It's very intense. Very dramatic. I'm so excited about it.
Oh my gosh. I thought we had, because I've seen pictures. It's not.
So that's the indie version. The indie cover. It's slightly different for the new trad published version. It'll be kind of the same basic cover, but we made a couple little changes to make it very dramatic. And I am so excited because when all four are out on bookshelves, I think they're going to look unbelievable.
I'm
So excited, getting chills.
So when did you go fully traditional printing? When did this happen?
Well, I self-published the first 3 books last year in June, July, and September. And earlier this year, I want to say it was in March or something, I was approached by Atria, who's my publisher. They're an imprint of Simon & Schuster, and they were interested in partnering with me on the print version of the series because it's very important to me to keep my ebook rights and to stay at least partially indie. But they kind of wanted to do a really creative partnership that not a lot of people are doing, where they take on the print book and I stay in the ebook. And that was like a dream come true for me. That was exact situation that I wanted. So it's been super, super fun working with them. We made some slight changes to the cover, not a lot. We wanted to stay kind of true to the original covers, but they are just a little bit like polished, I think. And they re-released the hardcover of Spark in October, the hardcover of Glow a week ago, so last Tuesday. And then we have not announced anything yet, but I think Heat will be coming soonish, and obviously Burn is in the works.
Well, congratulations. That's amazing. And I'm glad you got to keep that, like, like creative side that you wanted to and keep your own personal touch to it. So my baby Heat here will be retired.
Design. Tell her about your design.
I like went on Etsy and had them like specially make the edges because I'm crazy.
I love it. They're rare. Those are going out of print not tomorrow, but the next day. The original indie
just
version.
in time. Okay.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I know you have more. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
interrupting.
it's okay. No. I think this is. I'm loving it all. All right. So how do you feel about fan interpretations or fan theories about your work? Has anything surprised you at all?
I love them.
Oh, okay.
I love the theories. I love hearing them. I have to sometimes be careful because either one, I'll be like, damn, that's a better idea than I had. I'll get like in my head about it. Or, two, if people guess correctly, I'm like, oh no, have I made it too obvious? But I love hearing them. I laugh my head off. I remember when Spark came out, there were so many theories that Luther was her father for a little
no.
while.
I honestly, not that I
I-
thought that, but I could have seen that happen.
At the beginning, right? At the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
By
yeah,
the end,
You know,
by
he
the
was
end, I
secret
think they
talking with
figured
her
it out.
mom, and you're like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, by the end, I think everybody had figured out he was not. Hopefully. But at the beginning, I remember a lot of people in my Discord were like, "I think he's her secret dad." I'm like, so wrong kind of daddy.
pivot.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Okay. Dina, it's all you, girl.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to kind of dive into more like character specific and story specific questions. So you are okay with spoilers, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So just a fair warning to our listeners, we're going to discuss spoilers. So just pause, go read the books, come back so that you can hear all the tea. So one of our favorite questions to ask is if your book was adapted into film or a TV series, who would play your main characters?
I have a fan cast on my Instagram.
How have I not seen
and
this?
that has, it's older. So I did it like last year, I think. Probably need to like re-update it.
So I need to stalk your Instagram. Okay.
It's really fun because I did who I would cast, and then I asked my Discord who would you all cast. So
Oh,
it's like pen cast versus fan cast.
fun.
Which is
cool.
some really funny distinctions, is all I'll say. For me, I would never get any of these people. Probably they're all way too famous. But I love Zendaya as
Shut
Diem.
up.
Like
I literally said that to them.
Yep.
that's
Sorry for
my girl.
interrupting.
That's who. Perfect. This is great. That makes me feel better. She's who I had in mind, kind of while writing. I love that she's got comedy down pat, right? Like she can be so funny, but she also can do those really hard emotional, like deep moments so incredibly well. And for me, she's got the look as well. So like she
Yeah.
dream, number one goal. I don't have a great Luther, unfortunately.
He's hard.
Yeah.
There's a model that somebody in my Discord found. His name's Ken Yaman, I think, and he's very hot.
Ooh.
He's very tall.
He's our Cassian pick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He is. I mean, he's got the look. I think. I don't know if he can act, but he
Yeah.
certainly has the look. Let's see. For Henry, I always picture Dylan O'Brien,
Oh, okay.
which is like cute, but maybe not like hot, right? Like not necessarily a heartthrob. But you look at him and you're like, okay, he's cute. Like he's attractive. That's nice,
He's mortal.
That's
Yeah, exactly. Like you put him next to Luther and you're like, maybe not.
cuter of
on
the
his own.
townies.
On his own. Very, very cute. For Teller, he's kind of too old, but he has like that baby face. Jordan Fisher, who I am obsessed with.
Oh, yes.
Who's actually reading the series right now, which I'm freaking out about. He posted on his Goodreads that he's reading it, so I'm totally fine. I'm not freaking at all.
Amazing.
But he has that just like sweet face that kind of makes him look like just a nice guy. You know,
Absolutely.
which is how I sort of picture Teller is just looking like this really sweet, nice guy.
He is so sweet.
For Mora, I always pictured like either Betty White or some kind of like golden girlsy, like grandma figure that you could, tell anything to. Olivia Colman's too young, but I would love her in that role because I think she would be so funny,
Yes.
like subtly funny with that role.
Yes.
And be a good counter to Diem's sassiness,
Yes.
Yeah.
Who else have
Taryn?
I think that's all.
Who would you have?
Taryn is 1000% Chris Hemsworth in Thor in Love, like drunk Thor, when he's going through his like rough patch.
Yes.
Like that's Taryn.
Ugh, that makes me love him
100%.
even more.
Right?
He's my fave. Oh my gosh. Obsessed.
Love him.
Those are fantastic picks. And I'm dying that me and you both thought Zendaya. Because you're right. Like, acting is superb.
Yeah.
She's stunning. She's so versatile. We have to get her to do it, obviously, when this becomes an adaptation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Put it into the
she will
universe.
take my call. I'm sure she will.
We're going to manifest this for you. It's fine.
She's not like the biggest movie star in the world. It's fine.
What's funny is once Jenna was like, hey, you know who I'm picturing? Zendaya. I'm like, you know what? That's perfect. And what I like to draw is portraits. So right now what I'm working on is Diem's portrait, and that's what I'm using as my inspiration. So hopefully as soon as I'm done, it does it justice, and we'll send it to you so you can see what you think.
And then tag Zendaya in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Seriously,
sure. We're gonna
right?
make this happen for you.
And actually, her dress at the ball is in Glow was inspired by a dress Zendaya wore on the red carpet. It was like a Vera Wang. It was this green. It had like a corset top and
I know
like
what
a
you're talking about.
Yes.
And I was obsessed with that dress. And I was like, I'm using this as my base.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Love it.
The idea.
That's so perfect. I love that.
Good to know. Okay. Well, that's
And she has
fun.
bright red hair in that, like at that event. I think her hair was like an
you're
auburn
right.
red, which is sort of like the Bellator auburn red that her mom and brother had.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's so meant to be.
Yes.
I know, right?
Okay, we're going to tag her in this episode.
Like, she obviously will look and
sure.
see it.
Perfect. Zendaya, call me, please.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so in your second book, Glow, there's this moment where Diem and Eleanor, they're talking about her being her only advisor, and she says this important line about men wanting them to feel small, be quiet, be predictable, unimportant, behave, and then they make us think that we deserve it as women, and then she turns around and tells Eleanor like that they should just be scared of him, like as the women, they should be scared of him. And then even Soraya agrees with them.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such a powerful statement, a powerful moment. Like I really felt that. Where did you draw that inspiration, or like what inspired you to write that moment?
I really love the idea in this series of playing with strong women and how being a strong woman is, I think maybe we have like one idea of what it looks like, but in reality, there's so many different kinds of strength, right? So Diem is very outwardly strong. She's very sure in what she says, kind of doesn't care what people think necessarily. She's bold, she's opinionated, acts as if she's not afraid of anything. But inside, she's a total mess. It's absolute disaster, right? Yeah. And at the same time, we have somebody like Alix, who is a little bit more reserved, not kind of shoving herself out there, but she's really focused on like proving herself by her own actions, and being the best leader that she can. And I think there's a lot of internal strength in her where she's sure of who she is and what she wants and her work ethic, and that she's gonna, achieve it. We have Eleanor, who I think is finding her strength. And she has kind of always been told her whole life that she's not that important. She doesn't have strong magic. She doesn't come from like the core family, right? That sort of descends from the king. She's just kind of a distant cousin. You're like, want to marry her off and forget about her. And she, I think, with Diem's help, is finding her strength in her worth and knowing her own worth and establishing that independent of what anybody else thinks of her. And so I just love that all of the women in this series are finding strength in their own different, unique ways. And they don't, none of them really need men to do it. I mean, obviously you have, some love interest in the picture, but but it's not necessarily them that make the women strong. It's their own personal journeys with each other. And so I for me, that's something I think about a lot as I write this series. It's like, how can I really do justice to these women finding their strength in a world that can be very male dominated, or that sort of makes them think men determine their worth.
And I think that's what all three of us love about this genre, and your books in particular, is that it's kind of just like a boost to how strong women are. And it's just like, like women write women, and we write them powerful because we are powerful. Like, I love it. I love it.
We can save the world. We can. Damsels in distress.
Exactly.
Like
we might want to be sometimes.
Like in Spark, when she goes into the armory and like she's just like, fuck it, if I die, I die, but I gotta save people. Like she was just overcome with her like her convictions of, oh, I did this, I need to save everybody, I need to fix it. Like who cares? Like that's That's badass.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Then she's dissolves inside, but she had really great intentions going in.
Yeah. For sure.
That was my favorite moment though in Spark was the armory scene.
I love that scene.
So great. And the vision and all of it.
No, it's so good.
And then she continues to grow. Like in Glow, we really do see that growth at the end where she realizes that she just needed to embrace herself, embrace who she is. Again, another like super powerful message and like just something like important to get out into the world. Like, I don't know. I found that really powerful, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of Diem's journey is walking this sort of center between two sides that she doesn't feel fully accepted by either side, right? She doesn't feel fully immortal. She doesn't feel fully a descended. She's just kind of in this in between in so many different ways. And I really loved in Glow that it wasn't like I'm picking a side, because before she's been like, I'm immortal, I'm on the mortal side, like screw the descended. And at the end, it wasn't that she said, okay, I accept that I'm descended and like this is my side. I said, no, these are both part of me, and I can embrace both of them and be both of them at once. Because I think the world does often try and push us into boxes, especially those of us who may, have our background in two different places. We get sort of shoved to one side or the other. And I just love that she, throughout the whole series, like, no, I'm going to stand up for both of these sides, and I'm not going to let people, force me to stay in one box or the other. And I know that can frustrate readers sometimes, for sure, that she, continues to give people, second chances, third chances, fourth chances, or that she maybe doesn't take a hard line when other people want her to. But I don't think growth is always change. I think sometimes growth is staying true to our values when other people want us to change. And so there's like actually a scene towards the end of Heat where I think everyone wanted her to kill someone.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I was very upset that
I'm
she
not
did
there
not.
yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I won't say. I think every single person reading wanted her to like do it, and she chooses not to. And for me, that was actually an incredible moment of growth for her, because I know she's very emotion driven, and I know her emotions in that moment really told her like, I really want to, do this. But she said, no, there's going to be too many consequences for other people. There's going to be consequences for the war. This is going to drive people away from me if I do this. And I'm trying to unite, not divide.
Right.
And so she did the responsible, unpopular thing, which for me is incredible growth for somebody who has been doing the reckless thing since page one,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, and I like that because then she stayed true to her character in a sense. Like she's going to do this and she's going to make it do the best decision for both descendant and mortal, regardless of what others want her to do or think that she should do.
Right.
Exactly.
I
In
do
and
like
outside
that.
of the book.
Yeah, I do like that she has rules that she should follow, but she stays true to herself, not what the crown is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another one of my favorite questions to ask. If you could choose any power from any of the kingdoms, Umbros, Miros, which one would you choose for yourself?
I have always thought healing, if like the true answer, I think, is healing, because if I could heal, then I would never lose the people that I care about, right? Like you would keep your friends, your family. And I think that if I'm being like real, is what I would probably want most. If I'm being fun, I'm just thinking like, oh, what if? I definitely would not want Umbros magic. I do not want to know what people think about me.
I know, right?
Absolutely not. I feel like fire would be fun. You could just be such a queen with that. You know what I mean? Scare the heck out of people would be great.
Great
I love
answers.
that.
Yeah.
Great answers. So the personality of Sarai is spectacular. She's my fan art that I'm doing in the middle of doing. So you describe this mythical creature so well. The bond between the crown and the Gryverns is beautiful. What made you choose Gryverns as the mythical creature in your story?
I love an animal sidekick. I'm a sucker for it. It's one of
too.
my favorite tropes in romantasy and just generally, really. I love dragons, especially dragons that have a lot of personality. I think that's so fun. But I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to just do another dragon book. You know what I mean? I wanted to take a little bit of a twist on it. And I think when you write dragons, there's a lot of lore that is people just automatically assume is now imparted onto your world and your story of what dragons are like and the relationships that people have with them, how people feel about them. And I didn't want to have any of that. I wanted to be able to create my own lore and have people walk into it with kind of a blank slate and say, okay, what do these things look like? What do they act like? What do they like, dislike, all of that. And so it's sort of half dragon. It's like half dragon, half griffin, really. Thus the Gryvern. But I love the idea of it being like, the king / queen of land, air, and sea, right? And sort of the nature being their domain. If I think about what were Gryverns like before people took them and domesticated them, just kind of ruling over the natural land themselves. I mean, they're all kind of like, they're not quite humans, right? They can't speak, they can't communicate that like efficiently, but they're also not like pets. They have strong opinions and feelings and thoughts and all of that. So they're kind of in this fun in between of being very pet-like, but also having very big personalities. And I love any scene of Diem with the Gryverns. There's some great Gryvern scenes coming in Burn that are so fun. We're getting to meet all of them.
Thank God. Okay.
Yeah. And they all have big personalities for sure.
Yay.
I love that.
Because I'm dying to know, which I'm assuming since it's the last book, we'll find out, why are they all separated? Why can't they cross between, kingdoms and realms and all of that? And just Sarai and Earmuffs, her mate, and I love. And my favorite Sarai scene so far, I mean, there's so many to choose from, is the whole dress for the funeral of the king.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, your funeral. I tried to tell you.
Yeah. Our fashion icon. No one listens to her.
So funny. She's fantastic. Okay, Godstone sword. And listen, Danielle's halfway through Glow, so I warned her. I'm not holding back for you, Danielle. I'm asking Penn all the questions. So
Try and forget it.
the Godstone sword. I was very shocked to learn that Diem. I mean, it's alluded to, right? She can make the Godstone from her powers. She doesn't really. Oh, Penn.
Oh, I have a theory around that
answer,
too.
because now it's not.
I have a theory.
Okay,
That heat cliffhanger.
Oh, that cliffhanger, man.
Killed
us.
There's something there.
There's a lot there. There's a lot.
Something there. Yeah. We don't quite know all of the answers yet. But it certainly is something that will be explored a lot more in Burn.
Yes.
The most epic of all cliffhangers in Heat. Like throw your book if you didn't love it so much across the room. Like what? Like kind of cliffhanger. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's rough. It was a rough one. I'm not even going to lie.
Okay, so we need to highlight our favorite man, Luther. He truly rivals all other book boyfriends at this point. We have like a running just for fun, all of us, like a list of like book boyfriends in order. And Luther, he is right up there at the top. So
He jumped a bunch of people on mine.
He is a very high pedestal in our life right now. So loyal, especially in the epic, like challenging scene in book 2. The fact that he finds refuge for everybody he finds. Just wow. Just So, any inspiration for making such a beautiful man?
Have you read the Shatter Me series?
That is on my TBR.
Okay, it's I love the Shatter Me series.
Okay.
It's a YA. It's like a true YA too. So if that's not your thing, then
No, that we love everything.
But it's kind of a dystopian, sort of these teenagers who have powers and the world is sort of falling apart and they're trying to save it, kind of your classic, right, YA dystopian. But the main male character in Shatter Me, his name is Aaron Warner.
Yes, I've heard about him.
I love him. He is my husband. Even though he's 17, whatever it's like. I love him. And he is the absolute just epitome of I hate everyone but her. And I mean, he like truly hates everyone. Like he's so
I love that.
Just there's so many times in the book where he's like, I don't care if the rest of you die. Like, so what? The world can burn. I really do not care. And not like I'll burn the world for her. Like, no, it's fine. You can burn the world. I don't care. I'll let it die. As long as she's fine, that's all that I care about.
Oh, wow.
And it's a constant, everybody's so constantly frustrated with him because he's so grumpy. He's so just like, does not care unless it comes to her. And then she's this world, right? And I love that about him. I'm a sucker for those kind of love interests that just are all about her.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask myself, okay, who would Aaron Warner be if he grew up and got therapy and became like a little bit more well-adjusted, maybe learn how to care about other people besides this one person? And so for me, that's Luther. He's kind of like a grown up, better adjusted. Aaron Warner is still grumpy for sure. But I love that Luther, he does care about other people besides, the love interest, but he doesn't like to show it. He kind of keeps it very inside. And his way of showing love is kind of keeping them all alive. Keeping them out of trouble. I also think he's someone who cares very much about duty and obligation. And he has spent his entire life thinking that he has this, as we learn at the very end of Glow, there's a certain thing that happens when he's younger that makes him believe he has a certain role to play in the world. And he spends his entire life thinking that's the role that he's going to play. And of course, he does sort of end up getting to play that role, but in a very different way than he expected, for sure. It's different than he thought it would be. And I love watching him, watching kind of his excitement and like getting to fulfill that role, but also that realization of like, who am I outside of this? If my life can be more than just fulfilling this role, what does that life look like? What kind of life do I want for myself? It's something he's never let himself think about his entire life. And he really doesn't start to think about it, I think, until toward the end of Heat. Is when he really starts to actually foresee a future for himself that isn't all about service and duty and obligation.
Yeah.
We get to see a little bit more of his personality and who he is, and I love that journey of him to discover who he is and what makes him happy outside of just duty.
Because he was so dutiful all of Spark and then Glow. I like the line where he right after he sees Diem and Henry like making out and about to have sex, and then he's like, all right, get the hell out of here, Henry. And then he goes, when I kiss you next. Meanwhile, she just said, I'm gonna marry Henry. He goes, well, when I kiss you next. And she goes, how like, I love that. Like, it's his spark of like, I do know what I want sometimes. I'm not just about the crown.
Yeah.
It's like this mortal, I'll outlast him. I'll outlive him. I'll get my chance eventually. Like,
a few more years.
He knew his time was coming. He just didn't know how long.
Yeah. And the bonus chapters of our Luther bonus. Oh God,
His perspective.
I live for
Thank
them.
you.
I love the bonus chapters so much.
I want more of them. I'm greedy.
So fun. They're so fun to write because
I
you don't
bet.
have to, in the book, you really, every chapter kind of has to do something for the plot. They have to further the plot
Yeah.
along in some way. And so we don't get to have as many sort of purely fluffy, fun character, getting to know the character moments. So I get to do that in the bonus chapters and just say, let's explore their personalities a little bit more. And it's so much fun to just play with them.
I love it.
So fun. Okay, so listen, I did look at your Instagram and it does say that you are a Henry fan.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm going to need you to explain.
I'm number one, Team Henry, his biggest cheerleader, 1,000%.
Oh,
I bet I can convert you. I bet that I can.
Can you? Because we're really mad at him. So if you could, we would appreciate it.
I get it. Okay. I'll say a few things about Henry. Here's my spiel, right? I think Henry has several different roles to play in the series. Most people only really see him as potential love interest for Diem. And it solely in that role, I get it. There's a lot of problems there, right? They both know, I think, from pretty early on, it doesn't quite fit exactly as they want it to. But for me, that's the least interesting part about Henry's journey, and the least important part, really. His friendship with Diem it goes back almost 20 years. And it's really the only close friend that she has in this community that sort of shunned her for looking different, being different, not quite fitting in. He didn't care about any of that. He said, she's cool. I like her. She's, exciting and interesting and fun and bold. And I want to be a part of that. And from a very young age, he stuck by her side and thought she was just amazing and didn't care that everybody else was sort of shunning her or afraid of her or whatever. And one thing about Henry, he loves a strong woman. He does love a strong woman. Like he thinks Arlie was like the coolest, right? He thinks when Diem is doing her missions in the Guardians, he's the first one to say, you could be in charge someday. Like you could be a leader. He's not saying, come follow this guy. He's saying you yourself are amazing and you could be in charge of me someday here, he very much supports Diem in what she wants to do. But the line there is in when he feels like she's betraying the mortals. And we have to remember that they grew up in this small oppressed village. She was sheltered from a lot of the worst of it. Her mother and father kept her away from the descended. Her mother taught her a trade, so she didn't have to go rely on a man or, do something else. She was sort of handed this trade that she could learn in a very safe, protected life. Henry was not protected from any of it. He lost his mother. He has, seen his neighbors and friends die. He's seen a lot of violence, a lot of injustice. And they grew up agreeing the descended are bad and they need to be overturned. And they've agreed for 20 years. And all of a sudden, she's cozying up to the people that in his eyes killed his mother, that killed this child that kind of radicalized him, that they've spent their entire lives talking about how evil these people are. And suddenly she's their friend and she's wearing their clothes and putting on their jewelry. And he feels just completely betrayed. And I think any of us would in that situation, especially because she wasn't communicating with him. She wasn't telling him, my feelings are changing. Here's why. Here's what's going on. She kept it all very private from him. He certainly kept secrets too, as we know. But so did she. They both did, and so I think in that sense, I really feel for him as the friend who got left behind and the friend who feels betrayed by the person that he has been so loyal to his entire life and that he loves. He wanted her to be his wife. And I think he knew that she didn't want to say yes, right? I don't think he was dumb. He could sense it. But he was just hoping maybe it's a phase, right? Or maybe we'll figure this out. And then finally, for me, Henry in the story is he's kind of a symbol of all oppressed and marginalized people in the world and in our history. People who have tried to do things the diplomatic way, tried to do things peacefully, like tried to follow what the system says you're supposed to do to change things, and have been ignored and beaten down and mistreated and dismissed. And finally, they see, one too many people die, and they snap. And they say, okay, if they're not going to listen to us, I'm going to make them hear us. I'm going to make them see our struggle and hear what we have to say, whatever it takes. And so a lot of the things he says, particularly in Spark, kind of at the end where they have that argument, a lot of those things are things I have heard from people who are in these fights for liberation, or who are activists in kind of social justice spaces, that say, you keep telling us not to yell, not to be aggressive, not to, blah, 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 but you don't hear us until we do. And so I really have a lot of empathy for him in that sense of being like a person who's been pushed to their limit and feels like they have to do something, because if they don't, people are just going to keep dying.
Okay.
Do you feel bad now for hating him?
That might have done it. I no longer hate him.
That was good.
I respect him. I do respect him now. I do have one question. His reasoning for not showing up for the challenging, was he afraid of seeing someone he's loved for 20 years in a situation like that?
I think so. I think when his dad says, he couldn't see another person he loves die, I think that's probably true. I'm sure there were a lot of reasons, you know what I mean? I think he was also running away from a lot of things. But yeah, I think he didn't want to, because he knew he couldn't help her.
Right.
There's nothing he could do except sit and watch it happen.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
And yeah, exactly. So.
Okay. All right, I get him now. I understand him.
Just took the author to tell us.
I think people appreciate him more on a reread a little bit, because the first time that you're reading it, you're seeing him, number one, through Diem's eyes, and you're rooting for her, and he is not necessarily, they're not on the same page necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? But I think once you get a little bit further into the series and you realize, like, okay, like I know where that sort of romantic journey is going, you can separate yourself from that and see what other role does he play in this world, in this story, besides just her potential love interest. And that, I think, is where you start to appreciate him a little bit more.
Okay.
No. All right, I get
it. Sold.
Now, moving on to another very sweet character, Teller. Do you have a sibling? Because what a sweet dynamic of brother-sister there. He's adorable. He's so kind. The whole relationship with Lily, I love it all.
I love him.
I love him so much. Sweet little baby Teller. I have a sister who's older than me. Our relationship is nothing like he doesn't tell her like at all. I wanted their relationship to be very real. They obviously love each other so much. They're family, but they are brother and sister. There is a lot of teasing and some fighting. They don't always agree, particularly as we get kind of later into the series. I think Diem has never seen herself as a leader, but Teller has always seen her as a leader.
Yes.
He's always kind of followed in her footsteps, looked to her for, is this okay? Is this right? Like, what should we be doing? And so I love that she kind of has to realize, like, oh, actually I've always had this role on me. I just didn't really know it. And seeing how sometimes she's led him astray or done things that put him in danger, and having to deal with the consequences of that. Yeah. For Teller, I really think a lot of his story is about not having choice. He has had so little choice in his life. All of these decisions have been made for him. And he kind of goes along with it, right? He's not going to put up a fight. He's not going to ruffle feathers. He does what he is told to do. Yeah. And I think over the course of the series, he's trying to find his voice and trying to make his own choices in the world. But that's tough to do if you've never done it before. Right.
And you see that a lot in Heat, especially, where he's like visibly upset that he has no control over his life. He's just going along for the ride. And it's heartbreaking for Teller. And it really is. It's so sad.
Especially because he's at that point where he's going from boy to man. You know what I mean? He is becoming an adult. And as the world is about to sort of shove him off and say, go figure it out, go be a man and make your own life, he's realizing I've never gotten to do that before. I've just done what people told me to do. And I think a lot of the choices he does make for himself, like he really wanted to go to Sophos and study, right? And Diem kind of takes that choice away from him for what she thinks is a really good reason. Yeah. But still, she takes that choice away from him. And that happens a few times where a choice is taken. The few times he does make a choice, it's taken out of his hands. So that is also really, I think, a struggle for him. He's going through it.
He is.
Poor little guy is going through it.
He's a sweetheart. Now we have a character like Eamon, which is so complicated. He seems like he's about to redeem himself a couple of times and he backslides, you know? And I get it. It all stems from that abuser relationship he had with his father. So you feel bad and you understand that mentality, but you're like, just like, she's throwing him bones. She's like, listen, like, I think you can be something. And he's just like, nope, whoop, slides right back into bad behavior. So he's an interesting guy.
He's a really interesting character that we see more of him and his journey. And Taryn, you know, his brother, their relationship together. There's some things we don't yet know about the two of them and why they hate each other so much. That will come out a little bit more in the future. He, you know, it's very, unfortunately, very common that children of abuse often become abusers themselves. And because they subconsciously replicate that behavior. Because it's kind of all they know. And I think Eamon is on the precipice of falling into that trap of, is he going to become the same kind of man that his father is? Even though he for sure has his own feelings about his father. He doesn't think his father is perfect by any means, but he you know, feels that obligation to sort of keep our secrets and present a strong family front and everything. And every character in this series has a point at which they have to make a decision that's either going to take them one way or another. And Eamon has not gotten to his yet. He's had a couple of opportunities, but he's not really had the final decision that's going to decide, is he going to choose to be a good man or not? And I don't know. We'll see. Not every character is going to make the right decision.
I'm rooting for him. I'm like, come on, buddy, you can do it. Come on, buddy.
It's tough. And I think the interplay of their relationship as brothers is really interesting too. We touch on it a little bit in Heat. But that's an interesting relationship.
Because Taryn is so likable. Like, there's no way you cannot like him, that you're just like, oh my gosh, amen.
He's so funny, but most funny people come from a place of trauma.
Compensating,
what's that saying? Like, comedy is like trauma plus time or something like that. It's a lot of people who are very funny and outgoing and bright like that are really broken inside. And that, I think, is very much Taryn. We have seen glimpses of it, but we have not fully explored it quite yet.
For sure.
And they're kind of a tale of like two sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
Right? Eamon is very much kind of what you see is what you get. Taryn is a little bit more of a two-sided kind of thing.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
So in the third book, like, so much emotional torture is the best way I could say it. There was so many times I would like stop mid-paragraph and text my friend Megan, who had read all of them before me. And I was like, if so-and-so dies right now, this is it for me. I'm not doing this. And she's like, it's okay. Keep going. It's going to be fine. And Dina was doing the same thing. She was, because I read it before Dina, and she was like, I'm not going to survive if this person dies. I'm like, it's going to be okay.
Is it okay though? Are we okay?
We're not.
I'm sure that we are.
I'm not okay.
Yeah, it's on the little graphics I have on Amazon, like the promotional graphics for Heat. There's one of those little trope maps where it's got the arrows, and one of the arrows is just like stress in all capital letters. And I think that is like spot on the perfect trope for this book. Just capital letter stress.
Constant.
For 1,000 pages.
Constant. First
You're excited. Read the book.
First you earmuffs. First you injure Taryn. Then it's Luther. And then I'm like, wait, is Sarai gonna die? Then I'm just freaking out left and right. And I'm like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah, it was intense.
But
Very intense.
But then you give us the lovely gift wrap present of 2.5 books of angst and slow burn, and then
Sexual tension.
and then the shower scene, and then the library, and then they're like, mates, fated mates, like what's it was just like, okay, readers, I've put you through the ringer. Here's a present. And I'm just like, thank you.
Thank you.
You always get the really happy, wonderful moments right before the storm, right?
Yeah.
You should never, in fantasy and romantasy, you should never trust a happy chapter.
No.
It's always like a harbinger of doom.
Yeah.
No.
So it is a wonderful few chapters. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. I do love how you incorporate the LGBTQ community in your books, the relationship between Taryn and Zelaric. So great. I
love them.
Love that chirpy banter back and forth between, like, I'm attracted to you, but I also think you're annoying. Like, it's so fantastic.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I've said this multiple times, Taryn is like my favorite character next to Luther. When he says Lumnos's tits, I lose it.
God.
Like, and like Luther is like
Hilarious.
so devout, and he's like, do not say that in front of me. Like,
So irreverent, just does not care. It's great.
so
And a couple times DM too, she like throws it out, and you're like,
like Diem's catching on to Taryn's bad behavior.
Taryn and Diem have a very similar sense of humor, and it's very similar to my sense of humor.
Love it.
Like absolutely inappropriate, irreverent. So I have way too much fun writing
That's
those two, especially when they
fantastic.
interact with each other.
Yes.
They're just like two little peas in a pod.
So I'm sure you did this on purpose, but there's so many times with Diem's character that I'm screaming at her. I'm like, Diem, it's your blood. It's your blood, Diem. Why open your eyes, baby girl? Like, it's your blood. like, I love her, but she frustrates me.
she was very frustrating.
Well, I think we forget as readers, right, that if you read a detail in a book, that usually means it's there for a reason and that the details are significant. But when we're going through our everyday lives, the fact that we cut our finger on something, or the fact that we, saw something out of the corner of our eye, we don't think about it after that initial moment. It's not like something that sticks in us.
Yeah.
And so I had to decide, do I treat Diem like a reader where she immediately picks up on clues because she knows everything that happens is relevant, to her life?
Yeah.
No, of course not. She's new to being a healer of Descended. She doesn't understand what impacts them, what doesn't. She certainly doesn't understand Godstone at all, right? That's a complete mystery to her. And so she's kind of lost and is trying to use what she knows for healing mortals to heal the Descended. And she's not thinking about it from like a magical kind of Descended healing point of view. It's just, that's not anything she's ever had to think about in her life. So I don't think it necessarily means that she's like blind or stupid or whatever. I think she's just a person who was raised in a mortal world and still that continues to kind of put blinders on her of what what exists in this Descended world. She's still kind of learning all of that.
Okay, forgiven.
And even in the Descended world, that's not something they would
they had they had no cure. Yeah.
It's not like Luther or Taryn either would be like, oh, let's try this.
Right.
That's completely out of left field for all of them.
So earmuffs.
Yeah.
As in,
It's ruined now at this point.
Oh,
No, I'm just
No.
kidding. It's not ruined.
We've saved a lot of this
yes,
stuff.
come
yeah,
on.
I promise.
I've been
We have.
skirting
Yeah.
around
No,
some
you have. You've been
things.
doing a good job.
The Perth sacrifice at the end. Were you trying to destroy us?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it worked.
I was.
well done.
It worked.
Yeah.
You always got to kill a good
I
person.
I visualized it. So you set it up so perfect with you could just see like it's night, like the holding on until the last moment and then making that decision to save Teller and the turning around and putting his fist. I died. I couldn't.
I know.
crying?
Same. So did I. Same.
For sure.
I sobbed hysterically writing it.
I was going to say, do
Feel
you
any
cry during emotional parts that are flowing out of you?
Not even an exaggeration. I really truly think I have cried every single day of writing Burn. Like every single day of writing Burn. Not necessarily because people are dying, but because they're going through it. They're all, in a bad place right now, and bad things have happened to them. They've had losses, all of that. And I'm just like feeling, I have to put myself in their shoes and feel their feelings. And they're kind of all feeling a lot of things right now. With the ending of Heat, it's very easy to kill off characters that everybody loves as kind of a like easy way to pull emotion out of readers. But I find it a lot more interesting to say, okay, what deaths are going to impact the people who are left behind the deepest? And that particular death, I don't think anything could have, if any of the other ones had died, you would just get like simple grief, right? I've lost somebody I really care about. That death and the way that it happens is like a domino effect of guilt and shame and second guessing and survivor's guilt and just all of them, all three of those other people that were in that situation feel a lot of things about that death that really impact them in a much deeper way than just grief alone.
I'm sure.
And that I think is the more interesting story of how does that impact them and break them in different ways.
Oh, Penn. Well, that's what makes you such a phenomenal author, is because you're the author that's writing and crying while you're writing, because you can really put yourself in those positions, and that's how we're able to relate to it so well.
Yeah, human connection.
Okay, before we wrap up, my final big character delve in. Diem's bio dad.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's very, very mysterious. I'm sure going to learn a lot more about him. I'm very conflicted. I'm like, did he really try to kill her as a baby? Or was he trying to get her blood to free himself from the island? Like, I don't, it could go either way. Like we know there's a magical component here. So something's up. Something's up.
I think you're not the only person who has that question.
Okay.
I will say, yeah, I think there are at least a couple people in the book that have the same question that you do.
Okay.
And what can I say?
No, it's okay. We get it.
As I said, a lot of characters in this book have to decide whether they're going to be good or bad, which kind of path they're going to go down. I don't like writing books with people who are just pure evil or just pure good. I think everybody has a little bit of both in them, and we can be one or the other depending on the circumstances. And so I wouldn't say, except maybe the Hannah-Veres, I wouldn't say there's anybody in this book that's like truly, purely evil.
Yeah, they're awful.
Pretty much all of the rest of them, even the Hannah-Veres, think that what they're doing is for a good cause and for a good reason. They're either trying to protect the world or their people or their family or whatever. And that, so really this story is a little bit of a cautionary tale of like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know what I mean? Do noble intentions justify evil acts? And that is the question we'll be exploring a lot more in the fourth book.
And when's that coming out?
Who knows?
I mean, you're crying every day, so how much writing are you getting?
Exactly. No, we have We have an internal date that is set.
Okay.
I'm not going to say when it is, because there's still a lot of factors that could make us have to change it. So until all of those factors are like settled, I'm not going to say anything. But we do have an internal date. It's not that far in the future.
Do you find it hard to stick to a deadline, or does that give you motivation to keep writing more?
I love a deadline.
Okay.
I'm very deadline motivated. Writing doesn't quite work that way. the creative juices come as they come,
Yeah.
And also this is my first time writing a final book in a series. So that's been a huge learning process. Every day of the process I've been kind of learning a lot about myself as an author and just the process of writing. So I set all of these deadlines earlier in the process and I blew all of them really badly. And I finally had to take a step back and say, you know what? I cannot put a deadline on myself.
Yeah.
I have to leave this open-ended, which is part of why I haven't given a date. I haven't even hinted at a date.
Good for you. Do what you got to do.
Because if I think the second that I really say it has to be out by this day, it's like my brain's going to shut off and I'm not going to be able to get it.
Yeah.
So I'm giving myself space. We're holding space for Burn, and we're getting there though. It's close.
But maybe in the year 2025 it will arrive.
Let's if
Don't-
it doesn't,
don't- I'm
something's
sorry, I'm
gone
sorry.
terribly wrong.
Don't put pressure on her.
I'm so
I
sorry.
know. That's the goal.
Okay. You take as much time as you need.
We won't be upset if it doesn't come out in 2025. Don't worry. We'll still love you.
I will be incredibly upset if it doesn't come out in 2025. No one wants it out more than me. I can guarantee all of you. No one wants it out more than I do.
And where will you announce once you have a final date? Will you do like Instagram? Will it be on your
Yeah,
website?
we'll do a huge rollout of it'll be everywhere.
Good.
Every platform that I have, I will be
Perfect.
screaming, this is the date. So everyone knows.
All right.
Notifications on.
And we're gonna do a big read along in advance of it. So I'll publish a schedule.
Oh,
and
shoot.
I'm gonna try and do
cool.
like author's notes of here's my thoughts while I was drafting these 10 chapters. So for the people who are saying I want to do a reread before Burn, you don't need to start that now. I mean, you can if you want to, but we're gonna all do one together.
Oh my God.
Oh,
I'm
love
obsessed
that.
with that. That's
Yeah,
such
it'll
a
be
good
really fun.
idea.
We're in.
Brilliant. Okay. We will keep an eye out for that because that's so fun. So
I
fun.
can't wait for that.
Oh, exciting.
Great. All right. So last bit, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your books? Shout out your handles and all that.
I am at author Penn Cole on all platforms. My website is penncole.com. I'm probably most active in my Discord, which there's a link to it in my Instagram bio.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm pretty accessible for the most part. We try and answer every DM if we can. Don't always succeed at that. But yeah, I definitely encourage readers or other authors, if you have questions about the writing process or whatever, feel free to shoot me a note. I love hearing from
Amazing.
people.
That's so kind.
Thank you.
That's so kind. Well, make sure you follow us everywhere that you listen. For our listeners, not you, Penn. You're busy.
I mean, you can, but
I will also do that.
You're busy. You're busy. You're busy. Listen, write, rate, review, please. Follow us on Instagram at Sips with the Suriel, SURIEL. Please click our Linktree bio and follow us on Goodreads. We also put out our episodes each week on YouTube, so please subscribe and like. Same name, Sips with the Suriel. And okay, friends, keep reading to whatever end. Thank you, Penn Cole,
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
You're amazing. Thank you.